In this tutorial I will show you how to make two snowflake canes. The first one is very simple and has been floating around the internet all over the place, so I cannot really give you any kind of indication on who came up with it. So what you need is translucent or any other color that you want for a base, and then white or some kind of light blue for the snowflake itself. First, make a plug with your base color, and then do pretty much the same way as you would do a leaf cane, that is, cut 3 parallel lines and then place some of the white or whatever you use for the snowflake itself on the thickest setting in those lines between the 3 slices of plug. I have changed the contrast so you can see better, because it's always a problem whenever I work with white on my white workspace. So pretty much you can do it with the lines completely from one side to the other, from edge to edge, or leaving a couple millimeters without a line from the edge. Then put the plug back together, and exactly the same as you would do when making a leaf cane. Cut a diagonal line and then turn one of the halves around to form the so-called leaf, and then of course you need to put another piece between the two halves. So right now it's exactly like a leaf cane, and you're going to say, okay Dave, what the heck are you doing? Are you showing us how to make a leaf cane? Well, you can actually transform this into a snowflake cane. Very simple, by triangularizing the whole deal. So after you make sure that you have no air pockets trapped inside, you start turning that into a triangle with the tip of the triangle towards what would be the stem of the leaf. And once you make it into a triangle, you do a regular kaleidoscope cane out of it. So reduce the triangle until you can cut it first in 3. So you can make a half circle. And then another thing that it's a good idea to do before you start reducing it is to place a little bit of translucent on the very first 2 lines of the so-called leaf, because that way you'll have more of a snowflake appearance. So only the bottom lines will actually touch, while the top ones don't. So continue reducing your triangle until you can cut it in 3 to make a half circle first. And then put them together. Make sure that they do match both on the front and on the back. And then continue reducing until you get the half circle thick enough that you can cut it in 2 again. And I always have problems at this point because it's very hard for me to cut straight down when I cannot look from straight above because of the camera. I'm trying real hard here not to get out of the camera view, but I still didn't cut perfectly straight. But anyway, I can still reduce this. So this is a very simple snowflake cane, the simplest of all. So you just reduce it and you have your little snowflake. Now these canes will go to Kathy Weaver so she can make more bracelets for the children who are in the hospital battling cancer. And I will post a link in the description of the video so you can contact her just in case you have some extra canes or extra beads laying around. You can donate them to her and she will appreciate it, and the children will appreciate it even more. So this is the simple snowflake cane, the simplest of all. Now the next one is complicated as everything that I do. Get some white and then get just a little bit of I took here ultramarine blue and souffle jade, but generally speaking any blue and any bluish green, and just place like that to do a Skinner blend. You need the dark end of the Skinner blend to be very, very faint. And I am cutting it so I can make a jelly roll. With the white in the center and that faint Skinner blend on the outside. And then I will do another mix to wrap the jelly roll. And I will give you in a minute the proportions of the mix. I'm actually using cobalt blue and is a sheet on the third thinnest setting of each translucent and white. And you see of the cobalt blue I have the size of a pea, and I'm going to cut it in 4 and using only 1/4 of that pea size piece of cobalt blue. And I'm going to wrap this jelly roll, and it's on the wrap is on the thinnest setting. And don't throw away whatever's left over because you're going to use it here in a little bit. So once I get my jelly roll ready and all wrapped, I'm going to plug it to make it a little bit stockier, shorter and fatter. And again, make sure I have no air pockets inside. Then I will do 2 cuts. First, and then after I remove the sides, I will cut the middle one more time in half. Get the 2 sides together, and we will manipulate them here in a little bit. As I said, this is a more complicated cane. Then place some of that leftover wrap on one side of each of the halves of the center that you cut from the center of the jelly roll. Just on one side. Now let's start manipulating that piece that we made by putting together the 2 sides of the jelly roll, and we are just extending it. What you need to do is to get pretty much, you'll measure with the 2 halves of the middle, and you need to get approximately 4 pieces, more like 3 3/4. Don't throw away the 3/4 one because you'll need it. Now let's elongate one of the middle halves, and then widen it a little bit the other one. And cut one of the halves in 2 and elongate a little bit more the other half. Now let's start building the first part of our cane. I'm going to take the 3 of the pieces that I made with those 2 sides of the jelly roll, and I will place them like so, and then I will take some translucent on the thickest setting and wrap each of those pieces almost completely. Don't wrap around the part that connects them to that middle stem-like line. Then place 2 small strips on each side of the bottom of the stem-like line. I'm trying to get close enough so you can see better what I'm doing without the danger of getting out of the camera field of view. So place 2 small pieces at the bottom of that stem. And place the 2 already wrapped pieces. Then take the top one and wrap it the same as you did the other 2. Then put it back on top of that line. Then all you have left to do is to just fill the whole thing until you get a little square cane. For that, just make cubes out of the translucent, and of course you'll also need some of that sheet that's on the thickest setting. I could have put the cubes there on top, but I'd rather go little by little to make sure that I don't trap any air pockets and that everything fits nicely together. But the easiest way to do fills is to just roll the clay between your fingers to make a bead, and then flatten the bead into a cube. Reshape it, actually, not flatten it, just reshape it. So I will place 2 more half cubes on top there, and then wrap the whole thing on 3 sides. Using that sheet on the thickest setting. And first make sure that your top is very level, so you might have to insert 2 little pieces and then place your sheet so you can get a wrap. And then you can start reducing it. Now reduce it until you can get pretty much 4 pieces that would be the same height as those lines that you have made out of the middle part of the jelly roll. Then take your 4th part that you had, cut it in a diagonal in 2. Take the longest strip that you have and place those 2 halves that you have cut from the 4th section of the piece that you had made out of the 2 sides of the jelly roll, and place some translucent between them, and then position them diagonally on that stem, on the side that is wrapped, that has that bluish wrap on it. After which you'll have to elongate a little bit that central stem. Make sure you place that half of a strip with the blue wrap on the proper side. Then let's put together our little snowflake branch. I have no idea how to call it. So it will go somewhere like that, right under those two diagonally cut. Then unite the other two halves with the darker side of the Skinner blend in the middle. Put them right under the construction you did, and then put below the fourth part of the construction. Then start filling in with cubes of translucent and pieces of sheet of translucent on the thickest setting. Remember, it's better to have too much because you can trim it to size than to have too little and then having to go in with all kinds of fillers because you risk trapping air in there. Everything can be trimmed to size. So just keep filling with the translucent sheet and with the translucent cubes until you get a rectangle. That you will then wrap into, again, in a sheet of translucent that's on the thickest setting. Do not wrap on the side where you have the Skinner blend line. And watch out if you have anywhere, any piece that needs more filler to get a properly rectangular shape. And then start reducing it, making sure that you didn't trap any air in there. And see, the thing is that I made this, but then I realized that it's not rich enough if you want. So I'm going to place one more line there with the remnants that I have from that bluish wrap. Just to make it even more snowflake-ish. Don't put it where the whitish line is, just coming out of that whitish line. Now I'm going to cut it in two. And then I am going to mirror it. Make sure that it matches properly both on the front and on the back. Then simply start reducing it. Once you get it close to a length that is easily divisible by 3, start triangularizing it towards what would be the base of that construction that you did. So the area where you put in the oblique line would be the top, and you pinch the other end until you can cut it in 3, and of course start building a kaleidoscope cane. That's what's neat about the snowflakes, is the fact that they are very kaleidoscope like. They are a 6 radial construction. Once you do that, don't worry if your triangles are too long and not wide enough. This is clay and it will do whatever you tell it to do. So you can gently squeeze everything in the shape that you want it to be until you get your half a circle. Then once you reduce that half a circle enough that it can be cut in 2, and it would be at a manageable height, do so and place the 2 halves together to form a circle. And again, I'm going to have issues on cutting straight down without being able to look from straight above. But I promise you, I am doing my best. So now do your circle, and there you have a beautiful, beautiful snowflake, which I'm going to start reducing. And actually, I will cut a piece of this cane and reduce it to about a centimeter in diameter, so that would be about ½ an inch, let's say. But before I do that, I'm going to first wrap it in a sheet of translucent on the thickest setting once it is at a manageable height, after which I will reduce it some more and then cut a piece to reduce it at the tiny size that I told you, about ½ an inch. Now let's do the earrings, and I promise you they will be pretty. First, get a snake of white and take a circle cutter. Place the snake of white around it, then make sure the ends meet and they are nicely blended. And then you have to work on a glass tile. Then grab your heat gun and pre-bake the clay snake around the cutter. And then don't do like me, wait for that thing to cool off, because I did not wait and I kind of got it out of flatness, but it was very hot. Then place some liquid clay. I would suggest Kato, Scalpy Clear, or Fimo gel, and with a toothpick bring it all the way to the edges, to the snake. Then sprinkle some glitter all over the place. Use your heat gun to cure the liquid clay, and then take 2 slices of the reduced snowflake cane. Place 2 drops of liquid clay right in the middle of the circles, and place your slices of snowflake cane. Make sure that they are well stuck there. And then cure a little bit with your heat gun. Then place another layer of liquid clay. Now the thing is that you will pretty much have to do one bake. While that is baking, or you can actually wait and bake all this, grab whatever mold you have of Snowflake. I just used the makings. And using some white on the thickest setting, actually it would be pretty much the third thickest, cut some snowflake shapes. Now you will need earring bases that do have a place where you can glue something, not just some wire to dangle things from. If you don't have that, then do just the rounds. Once your rounds are baked, get a little bit more liquid clay and place it this time only around the snowflake cane slice. Use a paintbrush to smear it nicely. And I think I told you before, you can easily clean brushes of liquid clay with alcohol. Then using your paintbrush, apply some more glitter where you have placed the liquid clay. I'm using a very fine glitter. It's called Spirit. It's from American Body Art. It's very, very fine. It's almost like a mica powder. Then gently trim. If you had any kind of course, first cure it with a heat gun. And if you have any place where it sipped outside, sorry, I'm having a problem finding the word. Trim it nicely. Then you can start building your earrings. Poke a hole right at the rim. If it oozes out, that was the word. Haha, I found it. So poke a hole right under the snake, and then use some jump rings to attach the circle to the earring finding. Then take a little bit of acrylic paint to antique the snowflake, and then use glue to glue the snowflake, mold snowflake, to the earring. And then of course wait for the glue to cure for a while. You need to let it cure, obviously. And there we go, we have some pretty snowflake glittery earrings. And of course you can use more showy glitter if you want to, but these are my snowflake canes, and the bonus, happy claying!